Hello, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Vobes Show. I'm Richard Vobes, and today is the 5th of September 2018. It's 8 o'clock here in the UK, British summertime, and we're live, ladies and gentlemen. We are live. Yes, I'm alive as well, here in the studio alone. There's no lovely Julia. It's a shame. Hopefully the lovely Julia is actually watching, which will be fantastic. Yay! And hopefully you guys are watching as well. It's going to be a very relaxed format tonight. I've been working for the last 2 days. I'm a little bit drained, a little bit tired. I've just managed to scoff some food, and I've come into the studio with us in a subdued mood. I suppose that's the best way of putting it. In a subdued mood. So that's why I've put on the thing on the Facebook thing. What shall we talk about tonight? Over to you. I noticed that Richard Suggett is in, and Osborne, the lovely Julia. Hello, lovely Julia. And Mark Selwood, Ed Keeley, Maya, Ullman Harwood, Neil Gardner, Stuart Douch, Cynthia Walder, Ian Beddoes, Kushti Phil, and then it says 2 other people. And 2 other people, which is marvellous. Well, thank you very much for coming along. I'm just going to come down there. Wendy Wakelin, John Russell, Linda Kane, Henry David Allen, Kevin Hall, to name a few. Now, I'm going to try... we've got no Steve Pilfold tonight operating the messaging service, cutting and pasting. I'm going to try and keep an eye on the comments as we do the show, so in this slightly more relaxed format, so that I can keep on top of it. Paul Hine is there. Mark Langham, good evening to you. Waves at the computer screen is the lovely Julia waving. Grand, I'm waving back at you, which is nice. So for some reason the comments are not scrolling. George Timperley, hello. John Russell, good evening to you. Graham Whittington, good evening to you. Lovely to see you. If you're watching on YouTube, of course, unfortunately, it's live on Facebook. If you want to see it live on Facebook, get over to the Vobes Show on the Facebook page. But you're watching a rerun if you're watching on YouTube. So that's where we are there. I do have the dregs of a cup of coffee here. Apologies for that, but I shall be drinking that from time to time. Just a little bit tired, trying to perk myself up, ladies and gentlemen. I'm trying to perk. You know when you're feeling just that little bit sort of, out of sorts because you're a bit knackered. And you may ask, well, what have you been up to? You may ask that, and I may answer it after I've had a slurp of the old coffee. Robert Crosser says, hello, Richard. Evening, Richard, even. Nice shirt. Thank you very much. It may be, it may strobe a little bit. It's actually from a charity shop. I shouldn't say that. A lot of my clothes come from the charity shops, I hasten to add. Yeah, I find that I don't mind wearing dead person's clothes. It's quite amusing sometimes, but there we are. Nikki Jess. Hello, Nikki. Thank you very much. Lovely to see you. Terry Wood has joined. Good evening, everyone, says Terry, which is very nice. I don't know why this isn't scrolling. Colin Charles Cox, hello to you, sir. Mark Selwood says, I need to do another Vobing report down in sunny Cornwall on Friday. What do you suggest, Richard? Oh, I see. I don't know. What about something on the coastline? We always hear how marvellous the Cornish coastline is. It would be good to, the surfing and all that sort of stuff. But maybe there's other things, other pursuits that go on in Cornwall. Fishing, for example. Is there fishing that goes on? Are there, like along the Jurassic coast, there's lots of cliffs and there's the tracks of dinosaurs. Maybe there's some of that. That would be quite interesting. It'd be fascinating to see some of that. So that would be good. Robert Crosser says, yes, it's a second-hand check, meaning my shirt. Yes, of course, it is second-hand check, of course. One of the, you put it in the washing machine, you bung it in the dryer, it comes out and it bounces, like all checks do. Not that we have many checks these days. It's a shame, isn't it? Nikki Jess says, hello to me, hello to you, which is nice. Mark Selwood says, I've done... you've done the coastline, have you? Oh, all right, then, beg your pardon. I can't remember everything that everybody does, you see. It's all right, you've done the coastline. What about a town? What about a modern city? Is there a city? What's the biggest town city in Cornwall then? What's the biggest? Give us. I mean, I don't know. Don't ask me on the spot. I'm the blooming clue, mate. Mark, Mark, where are you? Are you near St Ives? There we are. Do St Ives. Have a wander around St Ives. And get your drone out and do some of that, which would be nice. Good evening, Richard, says Colin Charles Cox. Lovely to see you. Very marvellous. Richard Suggett says, I need to go fishing soon. What are you fishing for, Richard Suggett? What are you after? Are you, like, sea fishing, or are you angling from the banks of the River Arun? Because the River Arun goes through Arundel, of course, but Littlehampton, where you are. Joe Smith has joined. Hello, Joe. Hope you're well. Lovely to see you. Thank you for coming along. Oh, chic, dear boy. Oh, Rob. Sorry, I read check. See, I've only got one eye. I blame one eye for everything, ladies and gentlemen. One eye, yeah, blame it. Check. Oh, chic. It's very chic. Thank you very much. My shirt's very chic. Andy Joy. Hello, Andy. Thank you so much for coming along. It's lovely to see you. It's great. We're going after a fine flying start, having everybody here. Evening all, he says. And Macintosh Pam. If you are watching and you haven't said hello, do come along and say hello. What I don't want is these shows to become cliquey, where it's just the same old people. Love to have new people, new voices, new people with new opinions, different things, and all that kind of stuff, and try and keep the community going. I was trying to describe why I do the live show and what the live show is about, and I was trying to say, you know, it's like we've got this group. And some of them come over to the Vobes show, and we're just trying to keep the community going. It's my way of keeping in touch with everybody, because I can't all the time be on the Facebook on the Bald Explorer group and keep, you know, liking everything and seeing everything, because obviously, you know, one has a life. One has to go out and make the videos, and one has to go and take the pictures and do the interviews and do the edit. You know what I'm saying. You know what I'm saying. Emily Champion says, Mark, I'd like to know more about the artists in St. Ives. So there we are. Go and do something about the artists in St. Ives. You did ask. St. Ives is awful this time of year. Chock-a-block with holiday makers. Perfect time to go and do it, Mark. I want no negative things from you. Thank you very much. Go out there and film the holiday makers. Show us why it's the worst time. Show us the worst aspect of the holiday makers. Why do the holiday makers go? What are they looking for? What do they get out of it? Interview us, some of them. That would be interesting. Richard Suggett says, coastal fishing, get some nice fish for the freezer. Yes, there we are. That'd be nice. How do you do it? Do you go on a boat, or do you stand there on the beach and do that? Or do you just go to Asda and, you know, get some from the freezer? How do you get your fish? I'd be interested to know. Jason Beeching joined. Hello, Jason. Thank you for joining. Lovely to see you on the Vobes show. Very kind, which is very good. Anne Evans, are you familiar with Second-Hand Rose? She says to Henry. Second-Hand Rose? I don't know what that is. Sue Blount. Hello, everyone. Hello, Sue. Nice to see you. Mark Seward, I hate cliqueness of things, but it's so difficult not to fall into the trap. Just don't fall in. Just don't fall into the trap. Welcome new people. Say hello to everybody. That's what we want. Linda Kane says, and the Potters. And the Potters. Don't forget the Potters, she says to Emily she's talking to. OK, St. Ives it is then, maybe, says Mark Selwood. Good. And Adrian Lidgett has joined. Adrian, I'm glad you've joined, because I wanted to ask you, is it OK? I got your email, haven't replied to it, I've been away all day. Is it OK if the lovely Julia and I come on Saturday and have a look at these cows, feed the little baby cow that you mentioned, and video it? We were going to look at some woodland, but that's all been cancelled, unfortunately. I do apologise for that. So it would be great if we can come up and do something with the cows. I can, what's that thing that, rodeo? I could do a bit of rodeo, you know, with a lasso and all that sort of malarkey. That would be interesting. Robert Crosser says, no cliques. Everyone here is so nice. Marvellous. That's what we want. Good evening, Cynthia, Julian. How are you? Kisses and hugs all round. Paul Hine says, Callington is always a good place to go. Callington, Corlington? Where is that? What, is that in Cornwall, or is that local to you? Paul, Hein, you managed to find some fascinating and interesting places to go, and I've got to kind of follow on your coattails, really, and visit some of those and do my own video would be great. Richard Suggett says that I fish from the beach with a rod. Good for you. Would love a boat to go fishing, but need a few quid to buy a boat. That's true. I think that Richard, you're telling us something about yourself. You have an allotment which you take yourself off on, and you spend a lot of time down there, and then you go down to the beach with your rod and you do a bit of fishing. And poor Amanda, your lovely wife, I assume she doesn't go to the allotment. She doesn't go down to the beach, I'm assuming. So are you telling us something about this? I'm only kidding. I'm only kidding. Mark Selwood says, I want to go to St. Nectan's Glen, Linda. I want to do St. Nectan's Glen Linda. Oh, St. Nectan's Glen Linda, but without transport, it's hard for me to get there. Ah, okay, fair enough. Adrian Legit says it's fine for us to come on Saturday. Okay, where shall we meet? Shall we meet in the car park? Can we meet in that car park where we normally meet, at the back of the in Biddenden car park, at the back of the post office or something like that? I'll email you. That would be good. Robert Crosser says a bit of a drive from Cumbria. Yeah, it probably is actually. Maya Ullman Harwood says we could all chip in some pennies and buy Vobes an Explorer boat. I have actually got a coracle. I must get my coracle out. I've got to retrieve it from the lovely Harriet's place. That would be good. Corlington is in Cornwall. Thanks, Paul. That's very kind of you. Tintagel, says Linda Kane. I've been to Tintagel myself, actually. It's a fascinating place. Shirley Ward. Hello, Shirley, all the way from Shoreham. Lovely to see you. Thank you for coming along. It's very nice. Robert Crosser says, oh, yes, please, Tintagel. And yes, and tell us about the myths of St. Arthur. Didn't he have something to do with Tintagel? Henry David Allen says, Collington is in Cornwall. The railway, here we go. Hello, thank you for joining me. The railway, which runs from Plymouth to Gunslake, used to carry on to Carlington. Thank you very much, Henry. Such a knowledgeable chap is that Henry David Allen. Such a knowledge. He's got all this in his brain and it all comes out in his marvellous videos. It puts me to shame. It really does. Mark Selwood says Tintagel is another place which is hard for me to get to. Is there no bus? I think the 37, the number 37E goes to Tintagel, but it doesn't come back again. It disappears into the mists of time, so don't do that. Ian Beddoes says, will there be anything worth watching next week? Off to Erie, or is that Ayr in Ireland, I'm assuming, for a week and may not get Wi-Fi. Nothing worth watching here, mate. Nothing. In fact, I'm going to close the show until you come back. There will be no show until you come back. All right, Ian? There's nothing. Absolutely zilcho. Nothing, nilco, nink, nup, nu. But for the rest of us, don't tell him, but there will be, of course. Richard Suggett says, you've met Amanda. She's glad to get rid of me out of her hair for a bit. Ah, bless. I'm sure she isn't. I know she's got a lot of podcasts and stuff to listen to. But fair dues. Adrian says we can meet in the car park. That sounds good. Marvellous. But I'll email you anyway. Robert Crosser says 7 hours. Is it 7 hours to get from Cumbria down to what, Cornwall? It's probably about 7 hours from Worthing, you know. Getting out of Worthing can take about an hour. Kevin Hall has replied to Emily, but it's a long one, so I can't be bothered to read that out. And I am going to have a slurp for a moment. Now, I know that the lovely Elaine Brazier, she's no longer on Facebook, but she still watches the show and she watches on YouTube. So, Elaine, I know you're watching on the repeat, which is marvellous. Oh, by the way, this is stopped doing its thing. King Arthur, says Robert Crosser. Yes, thanks very much. Convert Bessie for C. Oh, that's a good idea. Thanks, Adrian. I'm just... Shush, Adrian. Don't give him the idea. Yes, thanks. Right, okay. So just pause your comments for a second because I've got this lovely postcard came in today. Here it is. I don't know if you can see it. I'm a bit further from the camera. I just wanted to sort of... Today was more about the comments and more about me interacting with you and so that... Because people often say you don't read out the comments. I do try. So today is more about that. But just for a moment, just pause your comments. So this one says, greetings from Dover to you, Richard, and all in the BE group, which is very nice. Please find enclosed this gem of a book, The Lure of Sussex. This is here, a lovely book, The Lure of Sussex. You may already have it. I haven't actually, Elaine. I don't actually have that. In which I stumbled across in our local market. I read the first few lines and I was hooked. It's such a good read. Also, could you please pass on much love and best wishes to Nikki Jess and Mark Selwood? So I'm passing those on, and this is from Elaine. P.S. Note the sketch on the back page. Well, that will go up on the board, of course. I should do that a bit later, if you don't mind. In the meanwhile, hello to John Small and Nigel Sadler, who have joined. It's marvellous. Thank you so much about that. There is this sketch, you probably won't be able to see it here, but there is a sketch on this book that the lovely Elaine has sent me. It's in pencil, and it looks like a sketch of the Downs. I can't read the signature in there, but it has got something there. It's a beautiful book. I'm going to read a little passage out of this in a second. The lovely Julia, by the way, says that she's been missing Elaine's photos, you know, from the sort of Kent-Dover end of the group when we do that sort of stuff. Yes, to be honest, I'm missing them as well. It's a shame, but everybody has their reasons. Paul Hines says, look out, those living in Shoreham, we are checking the area out next week. Oh, right. Well, if you want to have a cup of tea, if you want to meet for a coffee, Paul, let me know. I'm sure the lovely Julia and I will make ourselves available and come and meet you somewhere in the Shoreham area, because we don't live too far from there. So there you go. Mark Selwood says to Elaine, lovely message, and thanks you very much, Elaine. So there we are. I'm conveying it through Facebook to YouTube. How about that? It's very exciting. It's very nice. John Berger from the USA has arrived at last. Nice to see you, John. To see you, John. Nice. Yes, there's a few thumbs up from Mark. Is going up the vertical stream thing. So this is a book called The Lure of Sussex. It was published in 1928. Now, you may have missed out, Elaine, here, because this is a first edition, so it may actually be worth something, but you're not having it back. No, it's so The Lure of Sussex, a record of indolent travel, it says here, by R. Thurston Hopkins, with an introduction by Cecil Palmer, whoever the hell he is. Then let me just read you a little bit from the preface, okay? And it says here, I love the old language. The justification for venturing on this small addition to the literature of Sussex is that there's still room for a handy pocket volume giving a selection of walks and saunterings off the beaten path of the countryside. Since, however, there are thousands of secret and beautiful walks in Sussex, a complete book could never be produced by one pair of hands, nor can a complete perambulation be made by one pair of legs, even if a single pen possessed the power and cunning to garner all the ancientry and wistful charms that belongs to this beloved county. It is hoped that the obvious limitations of this attempt to record some of the Wapple ways and secret places of Sussex may spur local historians and walkers to correct my errors and fill the gaps. And it goes on and on. Of course, so it looks like it's a lovely thing. John Berger says, hello, matey. Hello, John. Lovely to see you. Stuart Hill gives me a thumbs up, which is great. Nikki Jest says, hi, Jennifer Sis. XXX. Hi, Jennifer Sis, which is very good. And Mark Selwood says, from the big old USA, Big John Berger. That's right. He is actually quite tall, John Berger. I should warn you. So anyway, this book's full of more perambulations. As it said, it's got beautiful old pictures of old shepherds. I don't know if you can see that, but that is a picture of an old shepherd. John Russell says, hello, Chris, which is very nice. I was just going to read you a little passage out of it, because the old lingo, I love the old, hello, where's the page gone? I love the old lingo in here. So this is a little bit here called, this chap, what have I done? I've just knocked something over, just a moment. Headphones have fallen off. This is a chapter called Wonderful Brighton. I haven't done much in Brighton, actually. It was funny enough, but I was in Brighton earlier today. Funny that. It says here, Brighton, Dr. Brighton. A joyous name, in former days expressive of frivolity and nights of festivity, and even to this day carrying an echo of wild revelry and nocturnal jazzing. I love that. But an echo only, and so faint that I am almost persuaded that the wicked past of Brighton is only a legend. Yet it is a legend which flourishes and spreads wider every year. It all started with that red letter day in 1782 when George, Prince of Wales, first came to visit his uncle who occupied a house in the Steine. He took a sudden liking to the town and straightway decided to settle there and ginger things up in the tranquil old village. He gingered it up. What a lovely, charming turn of phrase that is. That he did this successfully is revealed by the protests of the town Pecksniffs. Pecksniffs, I don't know what a pecksniff is, who sighed so often for the old quiet times. If anyone knows what a pecksniff is, do let me know. George, says a local Victorian, says a local journal of Victorian vintage, had brought gaiety, bustle and business. But he had also brought the vices of the fashionable life of the time. It is in a very few years, a sort of Vauxhall sprang up in the Promenade Grove. Here dancing, drinking and gambling and all sorts of wild pleasures were carried on under the special patronage of the Prince, whose illuminated portrait adorned the outer gate with the legend "Brighton's Support," inscribed in letters of flame underneath. These were the brave doings then at Brighton. Grand views on the downs, sham boat fights. I will read it correctly. Sham boat fights out at sea, gala nights at the Grove, balls and feasts at the castle, fireworks in the Steine, while all the time raffling went on merrily at Gregory's library. Anyway, it goes on, and it's just this amazing turn of phrase. And I thought it'd be quite fun, you know, like I was saying with the other book a while ago, it'd be great to take some of these old books and go and try and travel around some of these old paths like they do. Dan Thompson has arrived. Thank you very much, Dan. So thank you, Elaine. That's very kind of you. If anybody out there has other old guidebooks of the area, particularly ancient ones, you know, old ones from the early 1900s, 1930s, 40s, and even older, and you don't want them, if you find them or you don't want them, do send them to me. Send me an email, richard@vobes.com, and I'm gathering up a little collection of these old guidebooks and, you know, towns and villages in Sussex, Surrey, Kent, all around these sort of places. And I think that, you know, it'd be good for the winter walks, for the autumn walks like that in the autumn would be great. And in the future. So there we go. Kevin in Hall says it is a bedtime story with Vobes. Yeah, it's a bit of a bedtime story, isn't it? Once upon a time in the land of Dingley Dell, when men were men and women were women, and small furry creatures from Alpha Centauri were small furry creatures from Alpha Centauri. That's a bit from the Burkus way, actually, that little bit there. I just thought I'd mention it. Dan Thompson says, "Oi, crazy people." Oi, Dan Thompson. Well, have less of that, thank you very much. Glenn Johnson says, "Not much has changed." No, not much has changed. I'm so sorry. Mark Selwood says, "Lovely old book, wonderful phrasing. They don't write like that anymore," which is probably just as well. Mark Taylor says, "Pecksniff, someone who pretends to be morally good but is not." Thank you, Mark. What a lovely old-fashioned what do you call it? Noun, I suppose. Noun. What a pecksmith. A sniff. Pecksniff. Thank you, Mark, for sorting that out. Mark Taylor there. What a lovely bloke he is. Right. Now, I don't know if you've been following the story of the rat. I can't remember if the lovely Julia and I, mentioned about the rat. But the other day I came home, I had this rat problem. We may have reference to a rat a bit later on in the show, actually, but never mind that for the moment. I had this rat problem with the rat coming into the kitchen, and because my door was a bit rotten. Now, I think it was Glenn Johnson who suggested I get a door that fitted the frame, which is fair enough, but I'm actually going to do a bit of building extending work, and I want to make sure I've done that first before I get a new door. So James DeWill has arrived, by the way. I'm just keeping an eye on things. Sniffing Pecs, says Dan Thompson. I'm not quite sure that's what it is. Anyway, so I had this rat, so I figured that one of the things I would do is cement up round the back door, and so that when you shut the door, the rat couldn't get in. So I mixed up some sand and cement. I think I mentioned this in the last show. Mixed it all up, got it all there, and I thought that'll sort him out. Well, it hadn't quite sorted him out, because as soon as I closed the door and walked away, and the sand and cement had not yet set, he had come, this little bugger of a rat, he had come along, and he dug through the wet sand and cement and made a little tunnel so that when I came down in the morning and everything had set, including this little tunnel for him to come in and out through the house. So, and of course I was out at work. I was working yesterday and today. So what I did then was I got in and I mixed up some more sand and cement, but I mixed more cement to the sand, and so it would dry quicker and harder. And I blocked it all up yet again. I put some extra bits of wood round it, built up a little cage around the back of my door so he couldn't get at the sand and cement. And now, ladies and gentlemen, when I came down this morning, nothing. The little blighter could not, even with his little JCB and his hard hat and his little pickaxe, he could not break through, which is very good. Steve Blakey has arrived. Hello, Steve. Thank you very much for coming around, which is marvellous. And Adrian Lidget is suggesting I get a 12-bore shotgun. I haven't blooming seen the thing. Glenn Johnson is saying, good ratty. Yeah, good riddance to ratty, more like. Ed Keeley, good evening to you. Thank you for coming along. John Russell, what am I going to do? I don't know. What are you going to do? Rat in my kitchen. What am I going to do? I do not know. Now, we had some suggestions for topics to talk about on today's show. A few people had mentioned this. The lovely Julia says you could do with practicing your Jenga moves. Still thinking through. Can you smell the cogs turning? I don't understand that comment. What do you mean, can I smell the cogs turn? What, in my head? Maya, the lovely Maya Ullman Harwood says, it's back to school week. Any fond memories? Or they were doing eccentric teachers as a topic on the radio this morning. Am sure others will have more exciting thoughts, though. Who's got an exciting thought and who had an eccentric teacher? Be interested in that. The lovely Stuart Douch says, I have many eccentric teachers. I think I'm mildly eccentric myself these days. The thing is, though, here's the thing, is you if you think you are eccentric, you're not. I think you can't actually think that you are, because eccentric people don't know they're eccentric. I think that's how it works. I may be wrong. First day of school memories, says Matthew Holdsworth. Have you got any first day memories? Did you cry? Were you upset? Did you set the school on fire when you went to your school? I can't remember my first day at all. Ian Beddoe says, after your piece about the new hard drive, how about technologies past and present, maybe even where it will all end? Yes, that's a good topic for a conversation. If anyone's got any old technologies that they still use, they still love, maybe we could talk about that. Being on holiday with no internet signal. Yes, that is a pain in the neck, isn't it? We've all got used to our smartphones. Riddles, so that was Stuart Hill, by the way. Riddles, says Richard Suggett. And John Russell says, more curry cooking. Well, don't worry. I think we're going to be doing some more cooking, which would be nice. So there we go. Matthew Holdsworth has actually joined now, which is rather good. Thank you very much. Let me just go through some of the comments in case I've missed them. Glenn Johnson says Ratty has a door key. Yeah, that wouldn't surprise me, actually. Probably has. In actual fact, I was going around looking at, you have these vent holes in houses. I don't know about modern houses, but these old Victorian houses had these vent holes to let the air in. Well, I wanted to go make sure that they weren't broken so that there was a big enough hole for the rat to go through. And I read online a great idea. You know these stainless steel mesh stuff that you can buy for washing up, like wire wool it is, and you can wash up the old, the pans where you need that, where baking trays and things like that. It said stuff some of that into things, and I thought that's a good. Was I reading that, or was that? Maybe that was one of my listeners told me. I can't remember. Somebody told me that today. I read it somewhere, or I read it, and I thought, what a great idea. Linda Kane says, rat won't be able to get in, but you... The rat won't be able to get in, but you... Will you be able to get out? Well, that is the question. I can actually get out because the door opens inwards. My door opens inwards, and this monstrosity of construction is up against the door. So I can actually... I just have to step over it. Henry says, get a humane trap, catch the rat, show us him on Friday's show, then release him 5 miles away. That's a good idea. Yeah, I might try that. But I'm hoping that because he can't get in, he'll get bored, get hungry, and go somewhere else and annoy somebody else. What would you class me as? Says Emily Champion. Well, I don't know quite what you mean. What would you class me as? Oh, do you mean as an eccentric teacher? Well, you see, if you think you're an eccentric teacher, you can't be. Julia Hartley Neal says, borrow my cat Emerald for 24 hours. Yeah, but will she stay? Will she might, you know, cat's out of place. She might try and run back to wherever it is she's come from. Matthew Holt says, evening, I'm sorry I'm a bit late. That's okay. Mark Taylor says, I had a science teacher who was a bit like Doc Brown from Back to the Future. He was called Tudor Bonnell. Well, that's an eccentric name for a start. Imagine that. Tudor Bonnell. Tudor, not as in chew, not as in C-H-E-W, Tudor. Tudor as in King Henry VIII, that kind of Tudor. Bonnell, which is a nice name. Adrian Lidgett says, had funny named teachers Mr. Trot, the gym teacher, and Mr. Tap, the woodwork teacher. Yeah, who had teachers with appropriate names? That's always a good one, isn't it? Teachers with appropriate names, or any profession with an appropriate name. So if you have a plumber called Bob, I suppose that's fair enough. That would be interesting. So come up with those. Thank you very much. That would be very nice. We've got some bits and pieces to do. Kevin Hall says, I do remember my first day at Fernhurst Primary School in 1957. I cried. I guess a lot of people cried being left, didn't they? Robert Crosser suggests I get a large cat, which is a good idea, probably. But I'm hoping that, by blocking it up, as I say, that the rat will have gone. Maya says, I have a brief... I've lost it. A brief snippet of me going into school on video. Blimey. What, as a kid? That's nice. Well, you should send it in. We'll all have a laugh. Louise Savage. Hello, Louise. Lovely to see you. Thanks so much for coming along. Emily, remember Mrs. Grieg with the wooden leg? Oh, Mrs. Grieg with the wooden leg. That she sounds like, she would be like Mrs. Peglet. Is she called Peggy? Was her first name Peggy? That would be funny, wouldn't it? Glenn Johnson says, befriend Ratty. A stranger is a... It's moved. Sorry, it's moved again. It's because you're typing, which is great. But every now and just try to read something. A stranger is a friend not met yet. Very nice. Very poetic, Glenn. Kevin Hall says, the pub next to our school sold sweets from the bar, fruit salads, 4 for an old penny. Oh, yes, I used to like those fruit salads. And the blackjacks. Do you remember the blackjacks? They were great. I used to get 8 of those for a penny, I remember, as a kid, which was very nice. George Timperley says, I'm going to email you instead of Facebook message you because you said in the last show it's awkward, I think you mean, on Facebook Messenger. Yes, it is awkward. Do email me. I'd rather people email me because I lose the messages otherwise. Adrian Brown has arrived. Hello, Adrian. Thank you very much for joining. Andy Joy says, please no. Oh, to Maya. Used to like Tudor crisps. Tudor crisps. I don't remember Tudor crisps. Anybody remember Tudor crisps? That would be interesting. Mark Taylor says, I also had a teacher called Mr. Cardiff. But he was Irish. A Welsh teacher teaching Welsh called Mr. Cardiff would be good. Mr. Spratt taught maths. John Berger, note that we said maths, not math. Just seems alien that you would say math because it's mathematics, isn't it? Mathematics. It's plural. So maths. Let's not go into that argument any further. French teacher called Mr. Britain. That's a good name. That was Sue Blount. Thank you very much, Sue. Henry says, my woodwork teacher was called Mr. Woodfield. Marvellous. There we are. This is lovely. Fantastic. I'm going as fast as I can on these comments. Yes, as a child, it must have been me around 5 years old. Well, we'd send that in. We'd love to see it. As in Greg pronunciation. Oh, Mr. Greg, not Grieg. I'm sorry. There was an I in there, which confused me. Robert Crosser says Mr. Motion was human biology. Mr. Motion. I love that one. You sure you're not making these up? Matthew Holdsworth says genuinely one of the local policemen is PC Paul. What's wrong, PC Paul? I'm missing something there. PC Paul? Paul Constable. PC Paul Constable. Oh, Constable. Oh, yeah. Yes, sorry, I didn't read the last bit. It's like Constable, isn't it? As in carry on Policeman. Carry on. What was the Carry On police? Carry On. What were they as a policeman? Carry On Sergeant. No, it wasn't Carry On Sergeant. Carry On. What was the Carry On where they were policemen? Carry On. Oh, Carry On Constable. Of course it was. Silly fool. I got that. Right, you remember that one. Right. Love fruit salads and blackjacks, says Maya. Yeah, they were the day. Joe Smith did the ads for Tudor crisps. Did you? You did the ads. Do you know? I don't even remember what Tudor crisps were like. I've chewed many crisps, but not those crisps, I don't think. John Berger says, not my fault that you've got it wrong, Vobesy. Mathematics! You're just mathematics. You shortened it to maths. Get it? Whereas you do the math, it's like you haven't finished the sentence. It's so obvious. Just, correct all the Americans. You've just got it wrong. Glenn Johnson says, waiting for comments about old sweets again, Spangles. Oh, yes, here we go, Spangles. Everybody loved the Spangles, didn't they? Robert Crosser, Canny Bagger Tudor. Canny Bagger Tudor, okay. Oh, Canny Bagger Tudor. Is that the slogan? Was it a Scottish thing then? Mark Selwood says, me to still buy fruit salads and blackjacks, have to put them in the fridge or they are a nightmare to unwrap. Oh, right, yeah, because they're all sticky, aren't they? That's very true. Emily Champion says, I keep calling it math just for the laugh and confusion. It's maths. It's maths. That's what it is. Don't muck about. Flying saucers. Does anyone remember them? Yes, I was at Roswell. Oh, no, you mean the sweets that sort of do, yes. Put that math stuff in the boot, says Ian Beddoes. Exactly. Maya says, my mum says math, but then again, her pronunciation, mouse and mouth, are one and the same. Mouth and mouths. Fair dues. Cynthia Walder, English teacher called Mr. Scrivener. Oh, that's very good. Like that. James DeWill, the only teachers I remember well is the whiskey. The only... oh, very cunning that was. I'm trying to get down. It says 42 new comments, and I'm struggling. I promised myself try and read every comment in today's show because people say I missed them out. And I have got other things to talk about, but of course the comments keep coming in, which is absolutely fantastic. If you haven't commented, do try. And I'm sorry the comments that, you type them and minutes go past before I get to them. But I'm trying to do that as quickly as I can. No, his real Stuart Motion. He's retired now, says Robert Crosser about the human biology man. We used to have an estate bobby called PC George Dogood. Oh, PC George Dogood, an estate bobby. Paul Hine says the school janitor was called Mr. Broomhead. So I'm reading them out because the people on YouTube are missing all these. So, of course, many of you can read them, but not everybody gets the comments, by the way. Robert Crosser says Mr. Healy, Creed Maths. There's his name, Healy, Creed Maths. Creed Maths? Linda Kane says tiger nuts. So we're thinking of old sweets as well at the same time. John Berger. And then we have your Z instead of Z and your extraneous usage of OU in colour. Colour. Yes, I know. Sometimes we've added extra letters. That's very true. Z? Well, of course, not Z, is it? Z, as in Z-bed. Robert Crosser says Jord. Oh, it's Geordie. Thank you very much. Thanks, Robert. Yes, of course it is. I'm not very good on the Geordie accent. I need to spend time up north, obviously. Love flying saucers, says Maya. Simon Brown has joined. Hello, Simon Brown. Dan Thompson says, I had a Mrs. Commander in first grade. Mrs. Commander. What did she teach? I'd be interested to know what she taught. Maya says, should explain that English wasn't her first language. All right, fair dues. Emily Champion, we had a PE teacher called Mrs. Trainer, like it. If I don't read your comment out, because there's this other thing that's going on with Facebook, I'm not convinced that all the comments actually get through. So if I haven't read your comment out, it may be that it's not going on. I'm deliberately today trying to read all your comments to see how it goes. Mark Selwood says, what about cigarette sweets? Anyone remember those? Yeah, that was like really training children to smoke, wasn't it? Or do you think that had the opposite effect? Kevin Hall says something. It's just flashed past. We had a PE teacher called Ken Allport, nicknamed Killer, and he tried to, LOL. Simon Brown says, don't read this out. Okay, I'm not going to read that, Simon. Linda Kane says, sweet tobacco. Oh, yes, sweet tobacco. I mean, blimey, what were they thinking? That indoctrination or what? James DeWill, talking of flying saucers, have you noticed that since smartphones, the number of UFO sightings have fallen. Very interesting point, isn't it? Yeah, and all those UFO sightings that we have are all out of focus and fuzzy, because that's how you photograph unidentified flying things. All the pictures of Loch Ness, fuzzy, because they're anything, you know, the Bigfoot, fuzzy. That's how you take photographs. Ghost pictures, fuzzy, because that's how it all is, isn't it? Because nobody actually, there's a, you know, look at that, there's a monster in that big lagoon, in that loch, with all these loads of hoops of tyres coming out. Oh yeah, of course, hang on, I'll take a picture. I'll just joggle it around as I take the picture. Comes out fuzzy, doesn't it? That's very true. Graham Whittington says, my art teacher was called Miss Constable. So, oh, that's very nice. Art teacher. Very good. Like it. Yep. Emily Champion says, and a teacher called Mr. Bus. Mr. Bus. Was he always late? Was he late? Be interesting. My head mistress at primary was Mrs. War. Everyone was scared of her. Was she on the path? Was she? The lovely Julia says, take a break from comments and start the gallery. Oh, thank you, boss. Thank you very much. So, okay, let's take a break. I'm going to take a break. So, I've heard you read comments that didn't show up on my screen, says the lovely Julia. Ah, so we are getting to the bottom of this. I'm reading comments out now. If these comments haven't turned up on your screen, it just goes to show that Facebook, and I have thought that this was true, doesn't show all the comments. Maybe it's because they don't want the thing to go too fast, because if all the comments... But, you know, there's nothing to stop you scrolling back. Nick Tan says this comment didn't get through. No, that's right. We didn't hear from you, Nick. I'm going to get on with the gallery, have no fear. We had a Mr. Commander at school in charge of the CCF. What's the CCF when it's at home, Matthew? Never heard of that. Linda Kane, chocolate smoking sets. Always got one at Christmas. Oh, did you? Kevin Hall, Marilyn, better late than never, LOL, whoever Marilyn is. Anne Osborne, gobstoppers. Yes, they were lovely, weren't they? Great big gobstoppers. Paul Suzanne Watt says, we had a sergeant in our battalion. Mark, do you remember Carry On, Sergeant? That was a good film, wasn't it? Marilyn Lawrence, there we go. Forgot it was on, Kevin. Hello, Marilyn. Lovely to see you. Thank you so much for popping in. John Berger, the lady hath spoken. Yes, I know. I'm under strict orders to obey whatever the lovely Julia says. And I'm getting on to the... I'm just trying to stop the comment. I'm just trying to... What I'd like you to do is stop commenting, because I don't want to not read your comments out in today's show. So if you could all just stop. And the minute I see it stopped, I'll move on to the gallery, okay? You can do the hearts and the things, but just for a moment... Pause until you get the go ahead. Okay, I want to see if all the comments do actually come up and what have you. What else have we got? Kushti's Phil. Hello, lovely Anne, says Nikki Jess. I've told you, Nikki, don't go saying hello to everybody. No disrespect. Kushti Phil says Spangle. Yeah, we've had Spangles. Robert Crosser, Robin Goodfellow art teacher. Goodfellow. Oh, yeah, okay, Goodfellow. I think Goodfellow, he was an artist, wasn't he? John Russell, CDT teacher, Mr. Escort. And what does CDT... Was it... See, we didn't have CDT when I was at school. Mark Selwood, Richard read a comment from somebody and I couldn't find it in the list. There we go. This is the sort of thing. Joe Smith, depends on what device you're using. I'm on a laptop. Adrian Liggett says, combined cadet force. Oh, right, okay. So, yeah, if you are going to use the, what do you call those? Not alliteration. If you're going to use, what do you call, initials for things? What's the word I'm looking for? Abbreviations, but there's a special term. If you're going to use those, don't. Because people may not know what you mean. That's all. That's why the BBC, annoyingly, every time they talk about anything, they say what it is. Because there's always somebody who won't know what it means. So just bear that in mind. Combined Cadet Force, says Maya. Thank you very much. Not everybody is as knowledgeable as you folks. Mainly me. I'm not as knowledgeable as anybody. I'm as thick as a thing. Mark Taylor, yes, they're all telling me. Right, Adrian Lidgett told me he stopped typing. That's great. I can't do it until you stop typing. Glenn Johnson says a bit of OCD, Richard. Yeah, probably a bit of that. Marilyn Lawrence says hello to me. I've got here new comments 35, and yet if I scroll down, it says new comments 35. There are 5 more comments. So there's 30 comments I haven't seen, and they've disappeared. Craft, design, and technology was CDT. Thank you, John Russell. Acronyms, that's right. Thanks, Mark Taylor. Sometimes, you know, the brain can't think quick enough. Matthew Holdsworth says acronyms. Yes, thank you. Everyone's telling me acronyms. That's very kind. Nikki Jess says, sorry, Richard. That's quite all right, Nikki. Just for the moment, if you can avoid saying hello to everybody, it's adding comments, and we're trying to... What I'm trying to do, ladies and gentlemen, one thing I'm trying to do is, particularly in tonight's show, is to make the show less clicky for new people, because it's come to my attention, I had a very long letter about it. Dear sir, this show is far too clicky. People just talking to each other, and then one loses the thread. And it's new people who might be watching the show and trying to comment, and what they see is people talking to each other, apparently know each other, and feel, oh, this isn't my place to type. And so I'm trying to sort of rein it in, so it's the comments are aimed at me, and I will respond to those comments, because if you want to talk to each other, then you know, find each other's WhatsApp name or text message and have a chat with them somewhere else, basically. I know I'm being tough. I'm being tough today. I'm being tough. Right, Martin Snow has joined, and so now that Martin Snow has joined, everybody else has finished typing, which is great. The lovely Julia says, gallery, please. Gallery, please. And then she sent a hug with it, so how could one resist? Is that because... oh, yes, because we're running out... Do you know, I thought it was only about 20 past. Right, Nigel Sadler, generally, we only see about 75% of the comments by my observation. There we go. Shush, stop talking. He's so rude, isn't he? I want space. I want breathing space for all the lovely new people. Right, here we go, ladies and gentlemen. Let's go and have a look at the gallery. Adrian Lidgett says, I won't talk to you, Richard. Yes. Well, just hold fire for a moment. This is hard work. I have no lovely Julia sitting next to me to sort of keep me in check. She may be on the other thing, sending me rude messages going, get on with the gallery, get on with it, son. I've got a life to lead. I've managed to get those pictures, and you've got to get on with it. I'm doing it now. The gallery. Right, sorry, a big sigh there. I suddenly thought for a moment I didn't have the gallery on the machine. Here we go. We'll race through the gallery tonight, ladies and gentlemen, because I know you all are eager to do and type something. So Mark Taylor, this is here, and it says Dino Mania at Bristol Zoo. Beware of falling asteroids. Not quite sure how that relates to dinosaurs, but there you are. I suppose because the dinosaurs are supposed to have been extinct by the result of asteroid hitting the Earth. Is that right? Something like that. Thanks for that, Mark. Nigel Sadler says, my T-shirt has arrived. Have you got yours yet? Look at that. He's got the Bald Explorer T-shirt. They are available at baldexplorer.com. They're all in black and white, as you can see at the moment. There will be colours, but not for a while. Not for a while. I'm leaving them black and white for the moment. Nigel's got one. If you're a lady, do check the measurements. Otherwise, you may find that they may not fit you so well. But thank you very much, Nigel. Sue Blount says, here there is a lovely little gem of a second-hand bookshop tucked away in the corner of Kedleston Hall. I picked up 4 lovely pre-owned books for £10. Well done, Sue. What a lovely, interesting place that is. Andrew Graham says, one of the yew trees in the grounds of Poet Church near Worcester. He says, I love these trees, the shape and the form they take, and the folklore that surrounds them. Yes, absolutely awe-inspiring, just the sort of trees that the lovely Julia and I enjoy. Andy Joy has sent us a picture. It says, been stuck indoors for too long, so this is the first time in 8 years I've seen something like this in the real world. And I have to say, it excited me. More to come as I discover them. And I'm not quite sure what that is. It just seems to be a whole load of flowers on some bank. I'd love to know more about that, Andy Joy. Kushti Phil over here says that St Mary's Church, here it is, West Chiltington in West Sussex. It's a 13th century porch, said to be the oldest in Sussex. Is it really? How interesting. I'll have to go and have a nip at that. St Mary's Church, West Chiltington. That looks very good. Cynthia Walder has sent this picture. A lunchtime stroll along the River Wey in the sunshine today. What part of the River Wey is what I would like to know, because it's quite a long river. Thank you for that. Dean Rhodes took a trip on the Festiniog Railway. I'm sure I've mispronounced that. Somewhere in Wales, I believe. Although it has got this Southern Railway thing on it. So that may be... It's a heritage line, obviously. But I don't know where it is. Festiniog Railway. Maybe somebody can enlighten me where that is. And here is a picture. Thanks to Gary Vaux. He says, did somebody mention a rat? He says, we presume that this is his family pet. TLJ says, it's very cute indeed, but I think it was fast asleep, this rat. But I don't think it was the family pet. I can't remember now what happened. But anyway, it's a bit like the rat that's been trying to get into my house. And meanwhile, Karaku says, an old house in North Lancing. And what a lovely old house in North Lancing that is. So there we go. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen, for posting those in the gallery. Julia, I have done the gallery. You'll be very pleased to know. Let's quickly go back to the comments here and see what you've been doing. Nigel Sadler says, oh my God. Nikki Jess says, how about say hello to new people, lovely Richard? Yes, say hello to new people and welcome them in by all means. That's exactly what we should be doing. Glenn Johnson says, make a point of reading new people's comments and ignore mine. I am not ignoring yours, Glenn. I've read a few of yours out, in actual fact. Steve Blakey says, hooray! Mark Selwood says, gallery already, gallery already. Mark Selwood says, looking good, Nigel. Robert Crosser says, twins. Nigel Sadler says, oh my God, because we picked his picture out. Andy Joy says, I'm going back to see it next week, Richard. It'd be interesting to know what it was. David says it's in Guildford. It looks like the bridge in Guildford, but it could be anywhere. I know the Riverway goes through Guildford. That's true. Mark Selwood says, it's the rat. Yes. And Linda Kane says, Festin Eog. Festin Eog. But I don't know where that is. Matthew Selwood says the Festiniog is in Snowdonia. The southern loco shown is a replica one that was at Linton and Barnstable Railway. Ah, there we go. Somebody who knows his stuff. John Russell says curry and beer for dinner. Richard Suggett says we are off to West Chiltington Church on Sunday. There you go. We're off to that to have a look. Cynthia Walder says it is in Guildford. There we are. Brilliant. Thank you very much, Cynthia, for clearing all that lot up. You can type now, ladies and gentlemen. You can type to your heart's content. Your heart's content. I want to show you another book, but Matthew Holdsworth will be interested in this because he suggested this. This is, I don't know if you can read that. It says the Green Sand Way. It's a guidebook. I purchased this because Matthew was very keen to accompany me on some of the jaunts around the Red Hill and where does he live? Red Hill and Reigate, and some of the places there. And it has a lot of suggestions of places to go for interesting walks along the Green Sand Way. And I just wanted to quickly read this opening bit here because the Green Sand Way, according to this book, is something like 108 miles. 108 miles. It goes from Hazelmere in Surrey. Is it Surrey? Must be Surrey. Through Godalming, Cranley, Dorking, Reigate, Redhill, South, Nutfield, Westerham, Oxted, Sevenoaks, Tunbridge, Maidstone. What's that? Charing, Ashford, and Ham Street. Never heard of Ham Street. But anyway, that's more or less where it is. It's 108 miles. And I thought it'd be great to do a bit of charting of that, which would be fantastic. It says here, what does it say? No, that's not the bit I wanted to read. That's just the where it goes. Hang on. Wait. Keep your horses. It says here the Green Sand... I can't read with these. But these glasses, by the way, are my performance glasses. They're actually a bit too soft focus for me, but they have anti-glare on them so you can see my eyes. If I wear my other glasses, which I do sometimes... Where have I put them? Oh, here. These are my other glasses, by the way. If I change glasses, look, These glasses have more glare on them, you see. But these are the ones, these are my everyday glasses. These ones, which are a bit bigger, are my performance glasses. I don't know why. But they're not so easy to read in unless I look like an old granddad and pull them forward like that. The green sand ridge consists of a series of layers of sandstone in which each of the green-coloured mineral, glucinite, is found in varying degrees. As the glucinite is exposed to the atmosphere, it oxidizes and acquires the yellow, somewhat mud-coloured tinge found in the rough stones you see on much of the way. The building stone of the upper green sand sometimes has a greenish tinge when wet due to the high iron oxide content. The green sand was formed on the lower crustacean times around 120 million years ago. At this time, the last of the Jurassic rocks had long been formed, and the Wilden clays and sandstones of the lower Cretaceous period, seen today in the High Weald, deposited above them. The weight of these sandstones caused the area to subside, and the sea entered. Anyway, it goes on with all the interesting places that one can visit, and I thought that would be, again, this is why I was talking about these guidebooks. They're quite great, you know, to do some of these longer guided walks and things. So that's that. I know we're coming up towards the end of the show. The other thing is I wanted to talk about was need to do some more mini adventures. The lovely Julia and I need to get away and go on another, like we did to Glastonbury, like I did to what was it? The Forest of Dean, and we did a very short one at the Mortimer Forest. We need to find some things. I was thinking along the Jurassic Coast. We did talk about that earlier in the year, going along and having a couple of nights away and following some paths. Maybe the Jurassic Coast or maybe the Green Sand Way would be good. So that's just something else I wanted to mention. Before we go then, in this hour, let's have a quick glance at some of the things. Just quickly here, Louise Savage says, I live in South Nutfield. So there we are. Maybe if people live in these areas, you could meet up and take me along. That would be fantastic. Wouldn't it be great if we could get people who live in the certain areas, go for a bit of the walk, and they take me, and I'm like a baton, you know, like a baton that you hand the baton. You hand the baton on. I'm the baton with the microphone. You hand me on to the next person who takes me on the next leg of the journey. That's what we need to do. We need to get something. That's a brilliant idea. Brainwave. Thank you very much, Louise. What a brilliant thing. Read the Mrs. What did he say? Read the missed comments, says George Timperley. Oh, okay, hang on. I'm going to read. I don't know where they are. Let's go back. It's in Guildford. Type. Graham Whittington. Nikki Jess. Thanks, Richard, for reading my comments. Glenn Johnson. I tried to find Betchworth lime kilns today, and I failed. Very easy. I know exactly where they are. I'm not going to tell you. No time. Emily Champion. Ooh, sounds interesting, Matthew. We'll have to meet up and do. Yeah, so there we go. We do some of that. George Timberley. I've done that. Lived in the thing. I want that book, says Glenn Johnson. I'm sitting on it. You can't have it. You'll have to order your own. Yes, Louise, you can come too, says Emily Champion. Mark Selwood. Grandad, we love you. Thank you. Kevin Hall says Hazelmere is in Surrey. More first-class rail tickets sold there than anywhere else. Oh, how interesting. Mark Taylor, heading back up to the God's own country next week, so hopefully there will be some photo opportunities. Well done to you. Mark Selwood, can you record us all a bedtime story, Richard? I would like to listen. Yes, I'll record you a bedtime story. If you've got any suggestions for a bedtime story, I'm more than happy to read you a bedtime story. Louise Savage says, Green Sand Way. Joe Smith, you need a camper van. That's exactly what I do need. Funnily enough, I know you know somebody, and we stayed in the place at the bakehouse, so we've got a camper van. We need to get our own one. Kevin Hall says, thanks, Linda. Want to be useful. And it says 6 more comments. But I don't know why they don't come up. Fossil hunting may be a good adventure on the Jurassic Coast. The Bald Baton. There we go. Simon Brown, the Bald Baton. I'm not going to sit on my book for too long. So that's very nice. So what do we got? We're at 9 o'clock, ladies and gentlemen. 9 o'clock. Thank you so much for listening. I was quite tired when I came in. quite exhausted. I've been obviously talking now for an hour non-stop, reading out your comments. Bedtime story just for the patrons. Yes, if you've got... What kind of bedtime story do you want? Do you want me to make one up? Or would you like one from an actual book? Or has somebody written a book that you would like me to read out? Or something like that. Once upon a time in the land of Dingley Dell, when small little creatures were crossing the road and large voluptuous creatures were lying down in the middle of the road waiting for Land Rovers to drive over them, a little midget of a man came ambling up the lane with a small handkerchief. He was peering into this handkerchief, looking down at something. No, it wasn't slime, it wasn't a bogey, it was a gold coin. It was larger than an ordinary gold coin, for this gold coin was almost the size of his palm. He was carrying this gold coin very, very carefully, for it meant a lot to him. At one point, as he went along the road, he took himself into the shadows, where no one could see, and produced the gold coin and peered into it. Seeing his reflection in that gold coin, he saw how handsome he was. He ignored the 3 ears, the 4 heads, the big nose, the massive lips, the one drooping eye, the masses of ginger beard that grew all round his head, and the strange slug-like creatures that crept out of his ears. He ignored all of that and still thought, how handsome I am in this lovely gold coin. Then he wrapped the gold coin back up in his handkerchief and he put it into his haversack, which I haven't mentioned, but he did actually have, and he put it on the back, and he carried on walking until he came to these old cliffs where there were some lovely lime kilns, funnily enough, and he clambered through the fence that was stopping the people from trespassing, but he was too wistful to worry about that. Clambered through the bracken, through the nettles, through the long grasses, through the leaves from the beech trees, through the few yew trees that had grown up there as well, and he went to the edge of this white chalky whatever it was I just called it, cliff, and he thought to himself, I'm going to dig a cave here. And out of his haversack, which I have mentioned he was wearing, he pulled out a flask and poured a drink into a cup that was connected to the flask via a screw, and he gulped down some hot steaming coffee. But this coffee had a magic quality about it, and he suddenly had this idea, and he got out this gold coin, and this gold coin that we thought was gold seemed to suddenly be very malleable in his hand, and he rubbed it and he rubbed it and he rubbed it and he pulled it into various shapes until he had moulded this gold coin into like a spade or shovel. And using this shovel, well, actually more of a pickaxe, actually. He used the pickaxe, not so much of a shovel. He used this gold pickaxe that he'd now moulded, if you're still with me, and he hacked his way like this, hack, 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 like that, through the chalk, and he gouged out of the chalk this massive great cave, this huge, and then he moulded the thing using his hands into the first implement I mentioned, which happened to be a spade, so he could shovel out all the debris out and all of that kind of stuff. And then a little bit later on, having done all of that, he went to these lovely old trees. He cut and he moulded this thing into a saw, and he chopped down the tree, and the tree went falling over like that, and he then moulded this into a different type of saw, actually into an electric saw, which is quite handy. He moulded it into a bit of electricity that, well, a battery, you see. He moulded part of it into a battery and a big whizzy round thing like that, and he got the tree, and he framed up a whole load of timber so that it would actually stop the cave from falling in and stuff, so it could sort of prop it all up like that, and it was very good. And then finally on this cold winter's eve, I didn't mention it was cold all winter, but it is. The snow was falling all around him all of a sudden. Just came on all of a sudden, as it does sometimes in these old fairy stories, just as you're falling asleep, and he had produced now a wooden bed and all sorts of things, and then he got his implement and he wrapped it all up, this little bit of gold, and he looked into it and he said, just before he went out, he reflected the sun, you see, that was just managing, not the sun, the moon that was reflecting through the snow and the trees and the leaves and everything else and into his dark shadow of the cave. And he looked at the gold coin that he had now back wrapped up in his handkerchief, not all wrapped up in his handkerchief, but partly wrapped up in his handkerchief, and he looked and he saw the reflection of himself in the blue moonlight in the lovely blue moonlight of the sun. And he ignored the 3 heads and 4 ears and 5 chins and the big nose and the slugs come out of his ears and the drippy eye and all of that stuff. And he said, "How beautiful I am. I'm such a beautiful man," he said. And but I do need a shave. But I'll shave in the morning. Never mind all that. And he put this gold coin under the wooden pillow that he'd made and stuffed with elves' chins, whatever elves' chins are. And he settled down for the night and he slept. And it was such a peaceful, lovely, beautiful sleep. He was so tired he fell asleep instantly. And that is our story, ladies and gentlemen, of this little man who had the gold coin, who managed to find a lime kiln and dug a hole in the side of the cliff and had a night and he fell asleep. And now, no doubt, you, the lovely listener, the viewer, I mean, fast asleep, fast snoozing away. I can't see any Zs. Fast asleep. So there we are. Marvellous. Very nice. All tucked up. Sounding a bit like Oliver Postgate then. All tucked up and fast asleep. Yes. And there we have to leave it now, as old little Mishtikuf goes push-tikuf, push-tikuf. There's Bagpuss and all his little friends, and they're all nice and tidy and going to sleep. And Emily loved them. Or something like that, anyway. And on a serious note, I've actually pictured this story in my mind's eye, says Glenn Johnson. Well, there we are. So he's got his implement, yes. Joe Smith says, just had an idea. Richard, will you be our lunchtime World War storyteller on Remembrance Sunday? Well, I could be. I could tell you a story, but it may not be the story you want me to tell. They were in the trenches. The rain was miserably coming down from the sky. Well, obviously it was coming down from the sky because rain doesn't come up from the ground. Although there could have been a burst water main when they were digging in the Somme and the water was gushing up the main and said, "Turn that bloody water off. Don't you know there's a war on? I'm flooded in here. I can't do the breaststroke anymore. And besides which, I've got trench foot. Oh, and there's somebody's head floating by. Oh, that's Barry. He got shot last night. Oh, poor old thing. When one of them bazookas went off. Oh, it'd be... Ush. Here comes a whiz. Bang. Do you remember that? Oh, what a lovely... Oh, what a lovely... I think I'm going mad. What we do with bread and jam when we've got pickled ham and van. When the Lavalier... I can't remember it now. It was a long time ago. I need to go, ladies and gentlemen. I need to go and have an injection and take some tablets. I seem to have started off very sedately on the show, and now I've turned into a complete and utter loony, going completely bonkers and mad, and haven't been... Yes, and Cynthia Wilder is fast asleep. Thank God for that. Yes, many people are fast asleep. Yes, thank you, lovely Julia. I'm going to give you a good spanking when I see you. Richard Suggett's fast asleep. I feel nice and warm inside. There we are. Marvellous. Ian Beddoes has just wet the bed. Oh, dear. Never mind. Ladies and gentlemen, it's been lovely to talk to you. It's been lovely to make fun with you. Make hay while the sun shines. Unfortunately, the sun has gone to bed and I'm going to bed too. So there we are. What are we going to do? Anyway, when you hear this music... It means, I'm afraid to say, that the Vobie One-Eye Kenobi Shobi has come to a zero plop. Come to an end. It's come to an end. Joe Smith says, yes, have a little lie down. I think I might need to have a little lie down. Good night. Thank you very much, for fine friends. I hope I've managed to read everything. I hope I've managed to bung everything out. You never quite know what you get on the Vobe show. It's usually a load of tittle-tattle and rubbish. But there we are. That is it. It's all mad here, isn't it? It's all mad. Until the next time, take care one and all. Thank you so much, and I will see you soon on the Friday show. Yes, indeedy. Friday show! Goodbye! Goodbye, goodbye, goodbye!